Howdy do y'all, this is John, and today we're once again talking about Dune. This time I'm gonna get into spoilers. So unless you've seen Dune, I recommend, turning this off until you go and see Dune, preferably in theaters because it's awesome in a theater. Unless, of course, you don't care about spoilers, which in that case, welcome to the Thunderdome. So in the very opening of the movie, you get this sort of off-screen monologue from Zendaya explaining the events over the past several years before House Atreides gets Arrakis. It had previously been owned by the Harkonnens, and the Freemen of Arrakis kind of kicked them out completely. And then it actually goes into the movie, and it starts with the Emperor gifting Arrakis to the Atreides. Between me recording this and me watching the new Dune, yes, I finally was able to see the old 80s Dune. I was not very impressed. My father kind of forced me to watch the old Dune. This new one's much better, and within the first half an hour, you get a scene that is basically taken from the old Dune that I'm pretty sure was also in the book, and you get why this new Dune is a lot better. The Gom Jabbar. This whole sequence is just done way better in this film than it was in the 80s movie. Paul Atreides, the main character, has to stick his hand in this box, and this lady kind of has a needle by his neck, and if he takes his hand out of this box, she's going to stick in his neck, and there's this poison that's going to kill him instantly. The whole thing's a test, because he has this mystical power because of his mother. This mystical power that no male has ever had before. They've all been female, including his mother. And it's basically tradition for them to do this sort of test. And again, no male has had this power, and no male has ever essentially passed this test, because no male has done this test. He, of course, passes the test, and basically you stick your hand in this box, it gives you this searing pain, and you can't take your hand out of the box until you're told to do that. In the 80s movie, and this is where the new one does it a lot better, you see what he's imagining the thing's doing to his hand. It's burning his hand and stuff. Whereas with this new one, you don't see that at all, and it's left to the imagination, which makes it a lot more unsettling in this new movie. Like I said, Paul Atreides got these mystical powers from his mother. You see her train him a little bit, including with this thing called the voice. I don't know much about the voice. I'm pretty sure they explain it a lot better in the book, which means I have to read the book. But based on what I can tell, the voice is like this voice pattern people can use to basically force other people to do something for them. She has him test it on her to give him this cup of water. He passes a little bit, but he's still learning. His mother is basically a pro in using the voice. You get a scene later on where the two get captured by Harkonnens. He was able to just barely get a Harkonnen to ungag his mother. When the Harkonnen started to realize what the heck he was doing, it was too late. His mother's mouth was ungagged, and she started using the voice on him, get him to slit a guy's throat and stuff. But yeah, there's this element of sci-fi and mysticism in this movie. that reminded me a little bit of Star Wars. However, Dune and Star Wars are two completely different stories. Yes, I'm well aware Dune the book was released long before Star Wars. I'm well aware of that. That doesn't mean Dune did not influence Star Wars a little bit. Anyway, since I'm talking about Arrakis now, when they get to Arrakis, after spending some time on their home planet, Harkonnens basically left them nothing. Harkonnens completely screwed the Atreides over. Barely anything was left there for them to harvest spice, and you eventually learn why later on. The Harkonnens do not plan on just leaving Arrakis to the Atreides. They talk the Emperor into lending them some of his troops, and they just full on invade Arrakis. Unfortunately, the Atreides lose. Duke Atreides, played by Oscar Isaac, who's great in this film. He makes an attempt to kill Baron Harkonnen, although it fails. And Paul and Lady Jessica, his mother, manage to escape. And the whole kidnapping scenario I talked about earlier happens during this whole thing. While we're on the subject, Baron Harkonnen is just intense and brutal throughout this movie. Something I never got in the 80s Dune. In the 80s Dune, he was just this weird, silly villain who was just in there going, ha 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 ha, kill them all. Whereas in this one, he's just like, kill them. Yeah, Stellan Skarsgård as Baron Harkonnen is just way better than whoever the heck played Harkonnen in the old movie. Like I said, Paul Atreides and his mother, they managed to escape. There is another fight shortly after that where Duncan, a friend of the Atreides, dies. He sacrifices his life. The relationship between Paul and Duncan ends up being very important because of this scene, because his sacrifice works in this scene, whereas Duncan in the original just dies. Then Paul and his mother meet the freemen, the natives of Arrakis. Paul ends up doing this duel thing with one of the freemen because the single freeman kind of challenges the leader of the freemen's leadership because he kind of let Paul's mother Jessica subdue him a little bit. Paul ends up winning this duel and kind of kills the first person he's killed. This is important because Paul needs to lead the revolution, and when you go to war, you have to be okay with taking lives. And throughout the scene, his mother's very worried because Paul had never done that before. But Paul wins the duel and essentially starts to lead a revolution. And that's where the movie ends, about halfway into the book, from what I understand. And, you know, like I said, my father, even though he acknowledged this was way better than the 80s movie, he was still very annoyed about the whole it ending halfway into the book thing. And I know I didn't cover everything. There's no way I would ever be able to do that. Like, this is just my thoughts with spoilers, with what I could be able to talk about within a hopefully short amount of time. Anyway, that's just my thoughts about the movie. It's great. I highly recommend going and see it, preferably in the movie theater, because I don't think a TV screen does this movie as much justice as the silver screen does. This movie was made for the theaters, and, you know, honestly, it's just a way better experience in a movie theater, and it might be one of the rare few movies I go to the theater to see again. Anyway, those are my thoughts on this movie. If you like this video, please hit the like button. Please also subscribe if you're new to the channel. And as always, please remember, the Bodetsky will return.